Thanks for checking out this movie review video. This is for the 1973 giallo film Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye. And as we find out, the reference in that title is to what was supposed to have been the plan all along, is that nobody involved in this film would live long enough to actually witness and tell anyone about any of these murders that occurred. That only the cat would actually have seen these murders. So hence, Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye. Anyway, this one was directed by Antonio Margheriti, who also did films such as Horror Castle, Mondo Inferno, Castle of Blood, The Long Hair of Death, The Young and the Evil and the Savage, Web of the Spider, and my favorite of them, Killer Fish. Just Killer Fish. All right. This one's written by Margheriti Giovanni Simonelli, who also wrote scripts for Blood and Defiance, Kiss Kiss Kill Kill, Knives of the Avenger, Every Man is My Enemy, The Killer Likes Candy, The Crimes of the Black Cat, which I have a review for on my channel as well, and A Cat in the Brain, which I need to get to seeing. Now, it's said that this is based on a novel by Peter Bryan, but some people have also debated online that people can't necessarily find said novel that this is based off of, so maybe it was all made up. I don't know. But in the case that it ends up being true, that it was based on a novel by Peter Bryan, there are other films that were based off of Peter Bryan stuff, such as The Brides of Dracula, The Plague of the Zombies, The Blood Beast Terror, and Trog. Now, the big thing, music, which is good in this film. The score is quite good, and that's probably because it was Riz Ortolani who did it. Now, if people are thinking, that name sounds familiar, but I don't know what else he's done, he did the scores for So Sweet, So Perverse by Umberto Lenzi, Seven Bloodstained Orchids, at least one song that gets used over and over in Seven Bloodstained Orchids, also by Umberto Lenzi, and most well known for the score in Cannibal Holocaust by Ruggero Deodato, which everybody rants and raves about how good that score is. So Riz Ortolani always does a good job. So getting into the actual events of the film, the sound of someone being killed and that very slow reveal of the actual first crime scene is a really cool way to start. It's shot a lot in the dark, but the little bits of light that give you the reveals of the body and the stained glass that ends up having a significance at the end is a cool way to start. And I will say that the sound design in general in this film is quite well done. So I like the way it starts. It's kind of like packs a punch in the very beginning, gets you hooked. So I like that. I like how the cat posts up to just look at the dead body, and that's a theme that would just keep happening. The cat keeps showing up whenever people are getting killed. I understand that the intent of the killer in the end was that only the cat would be able to witness them, but it's also weird that the cat just continually shows up when people are getting killed. It's just, weird. Was that a gorilla in the castle window? And yes, it is. Not only is it a gorilla in the castle window, but it is also a gorilla named James, who named the gorilla after himself. So you have James the character, and you have James the gorilla, and the gorilla doesn't really amount to much in this film. I guess the only real reason for it was so that you can, A, have another red herring to say, oh, well, maybe the gorilla gets out and kills people. Although that doesn't make a whole lot of sense, because you literally see a person with black gloved hands doing things that a gorilla wouldn't do, like, smothering someone with a pillow, or, slicing someone's throat with a straight razor. Not something a gorilla could really do. So I guess it was there for kind of a red herring, but the other thing I think it was there for is that so that the human James could use the gorilla James' dead body later to kind of cover up the fact that the body of Dr. Franz was in his room. So, I don't know. I just don't like that aspect of it. It just seemed kind of like, for no reason. But then again, giallo. They do a lot of weird things like that. The castle in this looks great. I love the design of the castle. Set design in general looks quite good in this film. And I love the use of the castle. It's a wonderful environment to film in. It's just very enjoyable to look at from my perspective. You get the strong hint that Suzanne is sexually interested in Coringa early on when she's looking at her legs as she's kind of changing. Yeah, they make a very big point of having her very focused on those legs. And then she makes comments later to her lover, Franz, who is cheating on his wife or girlfriend Mary, who's the woman of the house. And yeah. And I was reading somewhere actually when I was doing my pre-research that the bisexuality of Suzanne may have something to do with the fact that she was there to be the French teacher, and there was kind of like a sexual liberation movement going on at the time within France. And apparently part of this was actually filmed within France, or maybe all of it actually. Not 100% sure. Can't remember. But that may have been part of the intent of that aspect of the film. Don't know if that's true or not. I think that may be going a little too far, but who knows. The talk around the dinner table of vampires in the McGrief family prompts the audience to see James as kind of looking and acting like a vampire, especially when he first enters the room. Now, I will say in general, James is maybe my favorite character because he seems to be the only one who's really kind of being observant, says some things that are kind of smart, and kind of stays out of the way of the bad stuff, even though a lot of people start looking at him, and he is kind of set up intentionally by the killer as being the patsy, although that doesn't come to full fruition, unfortunately, for the killer. But yeah, I mean, I like James. But when he's first introduced, you don't really like him at all because he's very short with people. He's kind of morbid. He's very, like, snippy and just not a nice guy. He seems like he's intentionally trying to keep people away from him. And it does kind of seem like later on that he's really trying to push Coringa away. And I think he does tell her a few times, at a few moments, that she should go somewhere because of all the stuff that's going on at the castle. And he cares about her and he doesn't want her to end up getting killed. Nice guy. So he kind of ends up being like the best character in a way. Even though he named a gorilla after himself. It's kind of weird. I wonder if he was like... I think before Coringa showed up, James the gorilla was probably James the human's only friend. And vice versa, actually, in that case. James is a huge red herring because of his intro, of him being so rude and everything. Yes, that's another thing to talk about related to that. You're supposed to be suspicious of his attitude from the get-go to kind of look at him as potentially being the prime suspect so that they can divert the attention from the actual killer. The suffocation of Alicia was shot in a very odd way. You don't really see a whole lot of what's going on. And I know you're not supposed to see too much because they're trying to keep the glimpses of any portions of the killer very, very quick and vague to kind of maintain the mystery of everything. But it was just confusing to watch. Like, it's kind of in the dark. The shots are really quick. The camera was uber close to some of the stuff that you're just like, I don't even really know what I'm seeing at this point. So that could have been done better. Excellent. I was hoping for a secret passage reveal in this castle because it looks like one of those castles that would have secret passages, and lo and behold, we get the reveal of a secret passage. Although, to be honest, I don't think it was used as much as I kind of wanted it to be used. Just saying. But I was hoping there would be one, and there was one, so there's something to be said for that. Coringa made her situation a lot worse after finding the dead body by throwing her lantern on the ground. That's when she's down in the basement, I guess it is, and she finds the dead body from the murder in the very beginning of the film. Now, the fact that that body just stayed there and she didn't say anything to anyone, I don't understand that. I also don't understand what I was talking about, where she's scared and she throws down her lantern and then starts stumbling through the dark. I don't understand. Like, you literally just made your situation so much worse. Now you can see nothing. Now maybe you're trapped down there with a killer at that point, and maybe you're going to get offed. Now, she doesn't end up getting offed, but serves to show you how dumb she really is and how she's not really good at keeping herself out of dangerous situations or getting herself out of them. But yeah. But then, like I said, I don't understand why she then doesn't tell anyone that there's a dead body there, and it just stays down there for the whole movie, and then it comes back at the end, and there are more dead bodies at that point. I don't get it. Unless that was a different area, then maybe the body was moved after the fact. Maybe. But I think it's the same. That cat shows up everywhere death is, which furthers the lore in the film about a vampire being around. Yes. They really do kind of nail that lore quite a bit. So I don't know if they were actually trying to get the audience to believe that there was potentially a vampire aspect to the film. I would think not, though, just because of the fact that there is a you do see the kills not involve blood sucking in essence. So I don't know. Although they do have like the two marks on Coringa's neck when she has kind of like a close call. I think it was Coringa actually. I don't know. Got hard to focus at times. A little slow. The gorilla's reveal with James saying it killed someone is meant to be another red herring, at least for the opening murder. Yeah, like I was saying before, just saying, oh, gorilla's on the loose, kind of add the aspect of maybe the gorilla is to blame for some of this, and also maybe someone's about to get killed by a gorilla because they can be aggressive. Coringa sees good in James, even though he doesn't see it in himself, and you get the idea he's been treated like a problem all of his life. Hence, James talking about his madness needing to be cured. He does say a few things to Coringa about kind of just being like stuck there, and I think Franz, the doctor, was brought in initially to cure his madness in essence, although it doesn't really seem like he has a madness. I think all that stuff is kind of laid down to further make him more of a red herring for the audience to look at him and be like, oh, it may very well be James. He's very unstable. He's got this madness, and madness can drive people to murder. So yeah, but you can see that Coringa really like sees something good in him, and I think that starts to make him see a little bit in himself, potentially. Excuse me. And he does end up being kind of a bit of a hero at the end. Minor hero. I like the death of Angus, how you see the blood splatter on the wall behind him in the cemetery area, well, outside the crypt, and then you see the hand with the razor pop into frame. I love how they did that, because Angus is off screen. He goes off screen, and then you see the splatter of blood as he's getting killed, along with appropriate noises. And then you see the hand, the gloved hand with the straight razor flick into frame, and it just looks so cool with like that final image of that blood splatter and then the razor with the hand. Yeah, it's so good. I love that. That was probably my favorite part. It's minor, but it was my favorite part of the film. Coringa's nightmare with her mother laughing behind the fire and the image of the burning Bible is where Coringa gets the idea that her mother may become a vampire. Like I was saying, they really hammer home this whole vampire thing, and you can see that that really embeds itself in Coringa's mind, so much so that she's thinking maybe my wife, maybe my mother's not even dead. Maybe it's a situation where she has died but then come back to life and she's a vampire, because they tell that whole lore of McGriefs who die end up coming back as vampires. I think it's if they're murdered, they come back as vampires. And then she even goes to check in on her mother's grave and the body's missing. Obviously, we find out later that's because the killer has been moving bodies around to kind of set up this narrative and make people think different things. So yeah, I mean, smart on the killer's part, but yeah. James starts to seem more and more like the only sane and normal person at the estate as the film progresses. Kind of goes back to what I was saying about being the only really character that you start to be endeared to so much. I mean, Coringa, sure, because she's the titular character. Sorry, not titular. She's the main character. And yeah, so you're going to feel more for her. But I think as things go on, you kind of start to feel more for James and be more interested in him as a character. Because it seems like he's had a tough life there. He's been kind of like shut in and treated like being a dangerous person that he's not really. So, more sympathetic. And Franz finally got caught cheating by Mary. That took a while. I thought he would have been caught cheating much earlier, but he eventually gets caught cheating. I mean, he's sleeping around under the same roof. I mean, sure, it's a castle. It has many rooms. It's much bigger, but you have to figure if you're gonna go sneaking around long enough, eventually you're gonna get caught. Especially when everyone's at the castle all the time. Like, no one ever leaves. Throughout the entire course of this film, no one leaves the castle. Everyone's there. The only way they leave is when their spirit leaves, because they've been killed. Franz's ravings after getting caught cheating are supposed to cast suspicion on Mary as a killer then, which she, ends up being kind of even more suspicious later on. Like, they lean even further into it, and it's so far towards the end of the film that you do believe that maybe it was her, but they direct you in her direction when Franz starts, raving. and he says something about like, I'm going to tell James the truth, I'm going to tell everyone the truth, and that just, makes the audience member think that, oh, maybe that has to do with her murdering people or her having someone murder people, and that's what's really going on. Then you start thinking back, or at least I did, to the beginning of the film, which she literally makes a statement that she will go to any length to keep the estate. So there's that as well. They kind of lay that groundwork. The death of Franz is pretty lame. Very lame. It's very quick. It's very stupid. They could have done it a lot better. Should have been more in the vein of like an Angus kill. Not Alicia either. That was kind of a lame kill. But the Angus kill was very nice and inspired and bloody. Like that one. James fooled me. I thought the covered body of the gorilla in James's room actually was Franz. That's because that's where Franz had been killed. That's supposed to be kind of another quick red herring of James sitting there with a gun and a covered up body, and people being like, oh no, maybe James now is covering up the death of Franz. And then it's revealed that, oh no, it's James the gorilla, because as you said before, he had escaped and he was out of control. And yeah, so, but then James says something that it seemed like maybe he killed the gorilla just for the purpose of putting the body there because of the blood that was left by Franz, but I don't understand. Like, it seemed a little too weird, because like, if he had that much time, why didn't you just clean up after Franz's body? I don't know. I don't get it. Mary being the killer is too obvious, since she said in the beginning that she would do anything to keep the estate. Yeah, I kind of already talked about that. But she does look suspicious after Suzanne is killed, or Suzanne is killed, when she's, hunched over her body. She's found by Coringa hunched over her body with the straight razor in her hand. But obviously, like dumb people do in giallo films, I guess she showed up in the room and was like, oh no, she's dead, I better kneel next to her, and oh man, is this the murder weapon? Maybe I should hold this for a minute. Yeah, so another misdirection there. Okay, I am down with Father Robertson being an imposter at and the actual killer at the end of this film. Solid twist, and greed is the motive. Does make a lot of sense for the story that has been laid out for the film, so it made sense. It was a decent reveal. And like they do with killers in giallo films a lot of the time, Father Robertson was there just enough that he's there, but you keep forgetting that he's there from time to time, because there are long stints where he doesn't even show up at all. So he was introduced enough that he's there, and he acts nice enough and pious enough that you wouldn't really suspect him, but in the end find out, oh, he is the killer. But not only is he the killer, there's the added twist of he's not even the father, he's not even the original Father Robertson. He killed Father Robertson. That's who the body is from the beginning of the film, who was laying in the basement that Coringa just looked at and didn't tell anyone about. And yeah, this guy's the imposter, and he's going to try and take everyone's estate. Now, he's a part of the family. Apparently, he was saying that he's basically like this forgotten about cousin or something who lives in Canada, and what was going to happen is he was going to go and off everyone, and then through enough time and people tracing back the bloodline, they would find out, oh, there's this relative in Canada we didn't know about who's alive, so he can have the estate. So that was the whole plan. I do enjoy the directing and cinematography in this for the most part. They had some really nicely framed shots and some really nice camera movements. There were a few moments where like the camera movement was a little bit harsh, a little bit jerky, and a little bit quick, but that had been done at that time. There are a lot of giallos that feature that type of camera work. But there were a lot of other moments where it's like nice, smooth following movements and interesting angles and movements around characters. The film is very dark. There is not much light in it at all. I mean, it seems like almost everything takes place either during nighttime or inside, and no windows are open. So it's a very dark film. That said, I think they lit it well enough that you can see, for the most part, what you need to see, except for that death scene of Alicia when she was being smothered. So, yeah. How hard they go on the music during the horror moments is pretty annoying. That's one of the things that I always harp on. Like, it's just something that personally annoys me when they blare this music at you, and it's so over the top and it's so intense, and you're just like, stop screaming at me. I get that this is supposed to be like a scary or intense moment of the film. Let's back it off. But in all fairness, this was a common practice during this time period. There are plenty of giallo films that do this, and other films in general, from all over the place and from all types of genres. So it's a time period thing, and that's what was accepted and popular then. I do dig the use of fog in this. I will be honest. I think they utilized their fog quite well, and I really appreciated it. I know it's kind of a weird thing to say, but fog is cool to me, especially in films, especially in like a nighttime type setting. And they had a few of those moments where it's like in the cemetery outside the crypt, and there's like a nice fog just kind of swirling around. Looked good. But anyway, that's all I have to say about Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye. It was solid enough. In the beginning, I wasn't really feeling it so much because it is kind of slow-paced, and the story was a little meh, ho-hum, but the reveal at the end was pretty solid. I don't think it's necessarily one I would watch again, but out of 5 stars with half stars in play, I'd give it a solid 3-star rating. I'm okay with it. But anyway, I would like to hear what you have to say about it. Go ahead and put it in the comments. Love it, hate it, in between. Let's talk, and just talk about giallo in general. If you want to see more giallo reviews, I have an entire playlist on my channel. Plenty of them, 60-some at this point, and I'm still going, so yeah, that's a thing. Excuse me, do me a quick favor, hit subscribe if you haven't already. If you have, you are awesome, and thank you. If you haven't, please consider doing that, as you're ready to repay me for liking this video or any video I have ever done, because I don't make money doing this or anything. So your payment to me, subscribe to the channel. I would appreciate that. It literally keeps me motivated to keep doing this stuff, which I've been doing for about 3 years now, I think, somewhere in there. Anyway, regardless, I thank you for taking your time to watch this video, and until next time, keep it brutal.